On today's show, is the sky falling? Do the Mavericks suck again? Mavs lose to the Pacers, but they have a real Tim Hardaway Jr. problem. We'll talk about all that and more in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, leave a 5-star review, like the video, and comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. What's one question you have after the Mavs lost to the Pacers? Give me a question. Maybe we'll do a mailbag of these. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets when you place any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Not a money line, it's just a bet anyway. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today, we'll talk about the Mavs loss 133-111 to the Pacers. We'll get into the Tim Hardaway Jr. conundrum. It's a problem. Mavs have a problem, and the answer is difficult. You may not like it. I don't think Jason Kidd likes it. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. We'll talk about that conundrum. Can Kyrie and Luka do just enough? Because it seemed like they did just enough in this game, and they still couldn't get it done. So we'll talk about that. But let's start here. Mavs lose to the Pacers. This game was one of those where the flaws of the Mavericks come out. Mavs have struggled with what all season? Transition defense. Awful. Brutal. Pacers, 22 fast break points. That doesn't seem like a lot. Mavs only got 7, though. 133 points for the Pacers. Their offense is just, cooking. It wasn't even Siakam. Just 12 points. Wasn't even really Halliburton. Finished with 17, but he had 10 assists. Miles Turner, 33 points on the game. And the Mavericks game plan has been to, especially with some of these teams that make you move fast, make you rotate fast, they allow one guy to get open. And it was Miles Turner over and over and over again. Lively and Gafford both were having issues trying to stick with him, to stay with him, and also still rotate and help around the rim and still defend the rim. And it wasn't like the Mavericks were, getting destroyed in the paint necessarily. 48 points in the paint, that's not a ton from the Pacers, especially considering they scored 133. But they had a huge problem with Miles Turner, obviously. They just let him do what he was going to do, get the shots that he was going to get, and kind of lived with it. And it just wasn't enough. And so defensively, that was one of their big issues. They just couldn't contain that. They couldn't contain some of the movement. And they allowed guys like Miles Turner. Andrew Nembhard went 7 of 8, so he had 15 points. You had Ben Shepherd. He hit 5 threes because he was left wide open a bunch, so he had 15 points. The other guys kind of all below their averages, but it was those role players. And this is something that the Mavericks are going to struggle with. Where are the weak points in the Mavericks defense? And they're going to get exposed by some of these role players. How do they defend these bigs that can shoot? Because you're going to come in, it's going to happen. You're going to play one of these in the playoffs, whether it's Jokic or Towns or somebody. When a team plays a 5 that can shoot, how are they going to handle it? And they did not handle it very well in this game, so there's film to try and figure that out and work through it. All right, I'm moving this one up. I had originally thought I was going to talk about this game, but from the conversation that's happening after the game, at least on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, totally fine. You're not missing a whole lot right now. It's a mess over there. But at least the conversation that I saw is a lot of people, and people that I respect too, and that cover the Mavs and all that, all talking about Tim Hardaway Jr. That the Mavs have this big problem with Tim Hardaway Jr. And I agree. Tim has been a disaster since the trade. It's only been 5 games, but he's been a disaster since the trade. Right before the trade, he was playing okay, 20 points a game. Mavs weren't winning a ton, but he was scoring and doing the things the Mavericks needed him to do, especially since Kyrie was out and Luka was out for some of those games too. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has been a disaster these last couple of games, and especially in this game. He hit 3 threes. He hit another jumper. He had 1 assist. That was a good assist. Other than that, it was very, very bad. Now, he only played 23 minutes in this game. So I can't look at Tim Hardaway Jr. and just say, he's the reason the Mavs lost. Get him off. You replace his minutes with Hardy's, they win this game. I can't say that. You can't say that. If you're coming at me today and saying, just replace him with Hardy, I'm sure Kid has thought about trying that. And he tried Hardy at the beginning of the game, and I thought he did okay. He played like 4 minutes, and then we never really saw him again until garbage time. But the problem that the Mavericks have, to start, I don't blame Tim Hardaway Jr. for this loss. He has played very badly. Mavs have other issues. But Tim Hardaway Jr. represents the third heat on offense for the Mavs in a way. You've got to have another look. It can't just be Luka and Kyrie all the time. They, in this game, shot 45, 47%, had some runs themselves. 33 points for Luka, just about on his average of 34. 29 for Kyrie, above his average. And so, can they do just enough in this game? Luka, not enough assists, I guess. He finished with 6. Kyrie only had 2. So, they do just enough. And it just wasn't enough overall for the Mavericks. Their defense was a big problem. And they couldn't find anyone else to create offense. And here's the Tim Hardaway Jr. conundrum. He's the guy that has created or generated or scored some more of that offense. 17 points a game. He's in 6th man of the year, standings right now, or at least he's in the running for it. They need him to create offense or to at least score or to hit shots, and he just didn't in this game. Hit 3 of his 6 threes, that's fine. But his other shots were awful, hurt the team. Turnovers. He had 4 turnovers. You can't have a jump shooter have 4 turnovers like that. The Mavs cannot have Tim Hardaway Jr. just running side pick and rolls. It's just not his game to have Gafford come up and set a screen, and then he's trying to navigate it. There was one play where Tim Hardaway Jr. got a screen. I think it was either Lively or Maxey. It was on the right side of the court, and he just stops and pulls up for a jumper. I'm like, okay, once a game, I'm okay with that. They can't run that 5 or 6, 7 times a game where Tim is the one trying to generate offense. That's just not what his game is. And that's been the problem with Tim Hardaway Jr. is that he's a scorer that can't score on his own. That can't score on his own if he's being guarded. He's got to come around a screen or come around a pin down or come off of something else or find some open space or something like that. He can't even really drive to the rim because the dribbling and the ball handling and the decision making in a drive or in transition has just been tough and problematic for the Mavericks. And so what do you do with a player like that? That one, you need, because they need somebody else to create that offense. In this game, if Tim had been starting to hit some shots in this one, maybe it's a different game. The other problem is that he's very bad on defense and a weak link on defense. And so what do you do if you're the Mavericks? You need that extra scorer. You need someone to emerge. Tim has been a guy that has been good this season. I'm not here to listen to, Tim's been a disaster all year. Or last 3 months, he's not. He's been good. He's at least been better than he was last year. Or better than has been before. And so they need somebody like that. Where are they going to find it? It has not been Tim Hardaway Jr. He has not played well in these 5 games. A disastrous showing these last 5 games. And so what's Kid supposed to do? All right, the thing I'm getting told over and over again on Twitter in my mentions is, but just play Hardy. Hardy's played so well. It's a coaching malpractice for Hardy to not be playing over Tim right now. Hardy has played pretty solid in his role. He's played 10 minutes, 14 minutes, 20 minutes, 8 minutes. Put Hardy in the 30 minutes a game role that they have Tim Hardaway Jr. playing, and is it the same? Would you just have the same issues as Tim Hardaway Jr.? I don't know. Maybe they should try it. Hardy has been good playing off of Luka and Kyrie. If he's the secondary guy, he can definitely drive the basket better. He can hit the pull-up mid-range jumpers better than Tim Hardaway can. I don't know that their defense is much different, either one of them. It's hard. It's tough either way for either of them to play out there. Hardy can get just as hot as Tim Hardaway Jr. can. He doesn't have as much audacity, but he's got some audacity to him. And so this is the problem with Tim Hardaway Jr. This is the conundrum the Mavericks have. They need somebody else to emerge. You can't just say, just bench Tim. Play Josh Green more. They need to create offense. Your defense is not elite. It's not good enough for you to win, especially look at a game like this. 133 points allowed by the Pacers. Now, the Pacers' offense is amazing. They play at such a fast pace. The Mavericks couldn't slow them down at all. And so when you're in a shootout like that, you've got to play your guys that shoot the ball. I can't completely blame Tim on this, but the Mavericks need someone to emerge in that role, and Tim has just been bad and problematic for them. And I don't know that it's Hardy that's supposed to step up. And so who is it? Who's supposed to step up and generate some of that offense? Coming up, let's talk about, can Luka and Kyrie just do enough? Because they just did enough and they didn't win. So what else has to happen for the Mavericks to get wins? Let's talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Grammarly. I use Grammarly every single day. You should too. You can download the app or just add you can download the app to your desktop and you can like type sentences in it and then it'll tell you exactly the grammar that you need to change, the punctuation, the spelling, all that kind of stuff. I need that daily. If you've looked at any of my tweets that are sent via mobile, typos all over the place. But it also is your AI tool that helps you to craft more impactful writing. 96% of Grammarly users reported that it helps them do just that, craft more impactful writing. It works across 500,000 apps and websites. That's a lot. By understanding your writing and context, Grammarly provides relevant, personalized suggestions. Their tone suggests that you navigate even through the most difficult work conversations. So, you can trust Grammarly. It's the gold standard of responsible AI with 14 years of experience, just about every IT certification under the sun. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. Again, Grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you listen to the show every day, you're part of the Raccoon Squad. Whether you know what the Raccoon Squad is or not, you're part of it. So I appreciate it, especially if you're listening after a loss like this, where I feel like the vibes are not as good. So, all right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of this game because I think there are some things we can learn from it. Like I said earlier, Luka and Kyrie did just enough. Luka gets him off to a decent clip. He has 33 points. Kyrie had that great run in the fourth where he cut the lead to 4. That was the turning point of the game, I felt like, where the Mavericks had a chance to pull this one out and actually win. And so he cuts it. He scores 9 points early in the fourth quarter, like within the first 3 minutes or so. Cuts it to 4, and then nobody else really just came around them and helped them win, and the defense just did not hold up. And so can they do it? They've won these games in this stretch, especially after the trades, in spite of Tim Hardaway Jr. He's been a disaster, and they've still won. And so I don't think that it's just on him. But can they do just enough? How can they get more guys around them? Part of this whole problem, and this game kind of lays it all out, the offense was not good enough. 111 points. Okay, you're like, oh, okay, that's like a decent amount of points. That's a lot of points. 107.8 offensive rating for the game. That's offensive efficiency, points scored per 100 possessions. This game was fast. Scorching, breakneck speed. 107 points per 100 possessions is worse than the Grizzlies, the Blazers, the Hornets, everyone. Worse than everyone in the NBA's offensive rating for the season. So this was a terrible, efficient game for the Mavericks. And I think the problem is with the Mavericks is it's Luka and Kyrie, and then everybody else falls into line. Sometimes that's great, and you love it, and it works really well for you. And other times, your offense stalls. If Luka and Kyrie if one of them can't get going to the point where they're changing the game or taking over or all that, and Kyrie even got that. He even got to the takeover section of the game. They can't just do enough. Somebody else has to come with them. And so that's where the Tim Hardaway Jr. problem that I talked about earlier comes in. You've got Josh Green had 14 points. That's pretty fine. And then the others, they weren't creating as many threes as they could. And I think the offensive structure has been a problem for the Mavericks because when it breaks down, when Luka and Kyrie can't just be absolutely insane and create everything and create all the open threes and do all that, when Pacers try to take away the Mavs open threes, what do you turn to? What do you turn to? I think that structure, when that structure of the stars set the tone, the stars get it going, the stars make everything happen, when that isn't happening, and it wasn't happening kicking the ball out and creating shots and all that, when that doesn't work, what do you turn to? They don't really run sets and stuff. When they tried other things, it was the Tim Hardaway Jr. pick and roll stuff that I was talking about earlier that's just brutal. They really miss Exum. They really miss Exum in that role where he was the other setup guy. He was the other get something going guy. The guy that we hoped Josh Green would be offensively, where he can kind of create a little bit here and there. Exum had definitely been that before this injury. Now, I don't think that we should expect Exum. I don't think we should expect much out of Exum. He's not going to come back and like save the Mavericks or anything like that. Not that they really need saving. They just went on a 7-game win streak. But I'm not sure what to expect with his injuries. That's one of the reasons why he was not in the NBA is because he was injured a lot. That's the offensive problem. Now the defensive problem is something different. Mavs had 15 turnovers. That led to, a lot of offense on the other end for the Pacers. The Pacers were getting all those wide open shots that I mentioned earlier. It felt like the Mavs bigs, Lively and Gafford, were lost at times trying to figure out who do they stick with. Do I stick with the guy with the ball who's flying so fast I can't even think? Or do I stick with Miles Turner? Do I stick with, Obi Toppin? Do I stick with, Jalen Smith? Do I stick? Oh, Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith only scored 2 points, so maybe that's not the example I should use. But do I stick with one of these bigs that's also going to get open and go here? And they made the wrong choices a bunch of different times. That's going to happen with a new defense. The Mavs have had a really good run here after this trade where these guys brought in this new energy, and now it's time to all right, you've got to buckle down and we've got to all figure out this defense. We've got to all figure out how to play together. And some of it, there's just going to be some growing pains with it. The new guys have fit in pretty seamlessly, but there's still going to be some growing pains. There's still going to be some things they got to figure out. Defensive rotations is absolutely one of those things. The other thing, PJ Washington, I think his defense has been really good. That's been documented. P-Jail Washington, a lot of people have been calling him. He was on Siakam a lot of the night. 5 of 11 from the field. Only took 11 shots, 12 points. Like nothing really to write home about. But offensively, he has not found his offense yet. He's not a guy where you expect him to score 20 every night or even like 15 every night necessarily. But you think that some nights he scores 20, some nights he scores 10, some nights he scores 15, and then he's like 15 points a game on average, He just hasn't had one of those games yet. The first game was the closest. I think he had 14 points. He had a couple of good drives, missed a bunch of threes, and we were like, okay, here we go. The offense is eventually going to come around. He hasn't found his spot in it yet. Missed all 3 of his threes, 1 of 6, had 4 turnovers, 3 of them I think is a bad dribbling day for PJ. And so if he's going to come in and start and play in this role, the offense eventually has to come around. The defense has been helpful, for sure. The Mavs need other players to step up defensively, and they need to learn how to play together and rotate and all that kind of stuff. But PJ Washington, the offense has got to come around. It's only been 5 games. It's another Dang it. I'll do the Jason Kidd.
I have to apologize.
But I'm going to do a Jason Kiddism. You got to have some patience. It's true. You do have to have some patience with some of these guys. It's been 5 games. It's been a whirlwind. You had the All-Star break in the middle. It's going to take a little bit for him to figure out his way in the offense, especially the player that he is. He's kind of in the same like lane as Josh Green, where it's like, okay, you can do a lot of different things. So what do you do in this offense? Whereas Gafford comes in, he's like, all right, you do 2 things. Do those 2 things, and we also love to do those 2 things. Pick and roll, rebound, catch lobs, get putbacks. That's all his offense is. Run down the floor in transition, Luka will lob a pass down to you, and you'll catch it there, right? And so this is part of the problem is that can Luka and Kyrie do just enough? No. They've got to do everything. They've got to set all these guys up. They've got to get their own offense. They've got to do everything. That's the way that this is set up right now. And honestly, this is one of the reasons why I wanted like a Kuzma or somebody like that for the Mavericks. And the Mavericks did too. They had a deal reportedly set up for him. This is why you need one more guy like that. They just don't have that one other guy that creates his own shots, gets his own offense. Tim isn't even that guy, and we've documented that that's been a problem. Coming up, let's talk about this actual game. Let's talk about why the Mavs lost it, but who else stood out? What other questions do we have that emerged from this game? And then we'll talk about more like that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. Style so good you can feel it. I love Stitch Fix. I think that it's a great product, great service. It's like both. It's product and service in the same thing. You know that an instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you feel really good. Oh, it's complete game changer. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. If you're somebody that's like, I want to take a step forward in my style game or like my fashion game or just like the clothes that I wear. You hit a certain age and you're like, all right, I got to dress like a grown up now. I can't just like be wearing the same stuff I used to wear. Stitch Fix will set you up with a stylist. They always send you the right pieces. The fit is on point because they take all your measurements and all that. They know exactly the stuff that's going to fit you. It's going to feel good, and it's going to be your stuff. It's not going to be trying to, like, I hate the like button up short sleeve collared shirt thing that's in right now. I just don't like it. Tell Stitch Fix that. They won't send that to me, and they'll send you the stuff that you do like. If you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. Stitchfix.com/lockedon. STITCHFIX.com/lockedon.
Explain yourself.
Sorry.
All right, Isaac, let's get into this game. Other stuff that stood out to us. What do we think about, the rest of the team? I thought the run from Kyrie was great in that fourth quarter. That that was just a big turning point of the game. If the Mavs defense could have put some clamps down, if they could have contained the Pacers in some way. The Pacers scored 32, 35, 33, and 33 points in each quarter. The Mavs defense just did not show up. They did not slow them down in any way in any individual quarter. If they slowed them down in one quarter, like if the fourth quarter they finally put some clamps on and they outscored them, it would have been a completely different game. The final score doesn't show how kind of close it was because it was 4 points with 8 minutes to go, and then the Mavs defense fell out, and the defense and offense just completely fell off right out as soon as that run happened, basically, because it was a 20-point game 4 minutes later. That was a tough stretch. That was a tough little run there. So Kyrie, I'll start with that. Kyrie's run was really good. I also thought there was one play that was really awesome that I wish was this would have been perfect to start the show, where you go, this is what the Mavericks are. This is what makes the Mavericks so great. This is why I think this team is completely different. If they had won this game, this play I would have brought up to start the show. And sometimes I hate those where you're like, I've got this perfect start that I just really want to start the show with. And it would be a perfect metaphor, analogy, whatever. Third quarter, 6:44 left. The Mavs get a stop on defense. Also a new thing to the Mavs. They get a stop. Kyrie is all the way down the floor. Somebody outlets the ball to Kyrie. He's down there. Kyrie could just turn around and get a wide open dunk, layup, whatever he decides to do. Instead, he sees Josh Green streaking down the floor on his left. He's facing the other basket. Josh Green is running back down the floor. Kyrie dumps it off to him, and Josh Green gets a big dunk in transition. Such an unselfish play from Kyrie Irving, who has fit into this role. There's been some arguments and things online about, is Kyrie... The new thing I've seen is that Kyrie is not Robin. Kyrie is Batman, but Luka is Superman, right? That's the difference. Kyrie has been really good, and Kyrie is still a star. Kyrie is, one of the biggest personalities and people in this entire league, just star-wise, and just, who you are in NBA history, part of the NBA 75 and all that. He's just an amazing player, and still a really good player, and still could demand the ball and do all that kind of stuff. Instead, he's really fit in seamlessly. And a couple games ago, I talked about how he had this complementary game where he just really fits next to Luka, really works, really complements what the Mavericks want to do, takes over when he needs to, but also sets other guys up. And this play is the embodiment of that mentality that Kyrie has had, where he's come in to try and fit in and not all right, I'm coming in, I'm going to do my thing. Everybody else, get the hell out of the way, right? He has not done that. And so that play, if the game would have gone differently, especially with that Kyrie run in the fourth, he has that unselfish play. It gets somebody else involved, gets somebody else a shot. Got Josh Green an easy bucket. Then he has that run in the fourth quarter. If they won the game, this would have just been a great way to start it, but wasn't meant to be, I guess. Derek Lively played under 15 minutes. He was a +9. I thought he actually did an okay job on Miles Turner. It was the Pacers bench lineup. I didn't even mention this earlier. It was the Pacers all bench lineups that beat the Mavs. Both Luka and bench minutes and Kyrie and bench minutes. Look at the guys that had the biggest plus-minus for the Pacers. Obi Toppin, bench, +16. Ben Shepherd, +14. Jalen Smith, +11. TJ McConnell, +9. All those bench players, where they played a full bench unit, no starters at all, actually. All bench, that's what that means. All bench means no starters. When that all bench unit came in, they just beat the Mavs, and they just out-hustled them, ran them, pushed the ball faster, and all that. But I'm curious what Kid is doing with Derek Lively. because I thought he had some good things in this game. He had 4 steals. He had 3 fouls, but like he was also struggling to try and stick with Miles Turner. That was kind of an issue that they were dealing with, but so did Daniel Gafford. Gafford played just under 20 minutes, so he played more than Lively. And you had Maxey play 24 and a half minutes, which has like been his normal since the trade. But I don't want them to just completely go away from Lively at times. How many minutes did Lively even play in the second half? 5 minutes. He only played 5 minutes to start the second half. And I'm curious why. That's the answer I don't know. I know the answer as to why Kid would say, that's the thing I get tweeted all the time. Why don't you ask Kid about why Tim Hardaway Jr. is still playing? Okay. He's averaging 17 points a game. Kid is going to say, we need his offense. And, he's a basketball player. And,
I have to apologize
that you thought that he should not play, but I think that he should play. It's like, that's what he's going to say about Tim. I know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to, all right, why isn't Lively playing more? Why did you go away completely from Lively in the second half? The speed of the game was a lot. Maybe they're trying to slow down the game or just keep up with the Mavs, but like Lively is faster than Maxey at getting down the floor. The Pacers weren't really like trying to get in the paint that much, and so they needed more perimeter guys. Like I guess I kind of get that too. They took 27 shots at the rim, which is not a ton. Mavs only took 18, by the way. Their offense was all over the place. Didn't make a lot of sense. So yeah, I actually am wondering more why they're going away from Lively than why are they playing Tim Hardaway Jr. And he didn't even play Tim Hardaway Jr. didn't even play that extra shift that he normally has. He played 23 minutes. Normally he's playing 30. So Kid, I should have said this earlier. Kid is actually going away from Tim Hardaway Jr. because he played him less than he's played him in the past. Part of that is also garbage time. That's true. But why not? Why are they going away from Lively? I don't understand that either. I don't get that. There you go. That's thoughts I have on the Pacers game. That's the Tim Hardaway Jr. conundrum. Let me know in the comment section what's one question you have after this game. It's an interesting one. I don't think the sky is falling. This run was going to end eventually. Mavericks still have some good things. They've got some film now to work through and some stuff to work on. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.